Welcome to my kitchen. So, what do I have to do after a long day of work? Come home, work some more, clearly. Let me show you what we're fixing to do. You might like it. You might even learn something. Okay, so today we're tinkering in the kitchen, food-wise, and we're gonna make what I like to call my Carnivore Special spaghetti. So the first thing you're gonna need is the most important ingredient of all, beer. And this is the carnivore part. This recipe is actually very simple. It's good enough to feed 5, maybe 6 people. I make it for 3 people and then we eat it twice, so use it as you wish. But essentially what we use is 2 whole white onions, a whole mess of garlic cloves, some pink Himalayan sea salt for the pasta, some extra virgin olive oil for my veggies because I'm going to mince all of that, put it in there, kind of brown them up a little bit before we do the meat. 12 Italian sausage meatballs, Italian style meatballs, and a full pound of hot Italian sausage, which I crumble up. So this is the carnivore part of the special. Usually I just use 1 bottle of this, but I had half left over from something else. I'm gonna use half of this, and a can of diced tomatoes. And thankfully, we have this specialty food place in my area. Pause if you wanna get this. They do ship. Italian seasoning, so it's got pretty much everything I need. I don't have to add anything extra, and a mess of Parmesan cheese. So this is actually very easy to do. I can have this simmering ready to go in, I'd say 15 minutes after I start the heat. So first things first, we're going to explode all of this, and when I meet you back, it will be sizzling away in this pot here. This here is just for the pasta, which I like to use number 7, real thick spaghetti noodles. They take about 15 minutes to cook, even though it says 11 to 12. It takes about 15 from start to finish. And then we're gonna crank on the Himalayan sea salt about 30 cranks in this amount of water. Stir it up and get that started last. Anyhow, let me get started, and we'll just go from here to this. So, you might think this is an excessive amount of onions because I use 2 whole ones, and I used to think that way too, and I used to only use 1. But the problem is as this starts to brown down, they melt and they disappear in the sauce. So I've discovered that if I use 2 whole ones, there are still some chunks of onion left for me to eat. So basically what I did was I took the olive oil bottle and I just made like 3 little loops, and that's more than enough oil for this job, because I've discovered that if I use any more than that, it all rises to the top and looks kind of gross, and all the meat kind of sweats its own oils too. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence, and I've been saying that in a couple of my videos now, but for somebody who doesn't do this very often, you might actually learn something. One of the tricks I've learned as I get older is the trick to cooking is actually temperature control. Don't turn it all the way up to the moon, because that's going to end up burning things. So what I usually do is I start browning all this about halfway, about 6 out of 10 on my stove here, because this will start to sweat and do its thing. And once this reduces down, that's when things start kind of accelerating. Like you have to get stuff done rather quickly. So this part takes a bit of time. Actually it's good. It's gonna take a little bit longer, but this way you don't over brown or burn something. Something doesn't get stuck to the bottom of the pan, because that's always a pain in the ass when you clean up. But see, it's already starting to caramelize and get a little bit of mushiness to it. I basically wait till it starts to turn a bit yellow. Yes, I did put a ton of garlic cloves in here because I like garlic, and it also kind of melts down. Sometimes if I have like button mushrooms or portobellos or white caps, I'll chop them up and stick them in here also. You can chop up a bell pepper in there if you want. Kind of darkens the flavor a little bit. It adds a flavor that some folks like, some don't. It's up to you. This is my basic Carnivore Special because I ran out of mushrooms, let's be honest. Anyway, I'm going to reduce this down just to give you an idea what's going to happen next as this starts to get really, really soft. I'm going to take the hot Italian sausage. It's one big slab, and just pull it apart into crumbles and dump it in here, and then start to brown that. And then I'll grab the meatballs and I'll start dumping those in there and just brown the outsides of them. And then that's where the thing starts to get fast. So like as soon as the meat gets brown, start dumping your tomato sauce. So since I'm doing half of this and half of this, all of this stuff is like Kroger's and just regular store brand stuff. There's nothing to it. Like these are perfectly good, especially with a good Italian seasoning. So anyway, as soon as all the meats are browned, I'm going to dump the whole, if you have the one bottle, dump the whole bottle in there, dump all your tomatoes in there all at once, stir it and kind of settle it down, and then turn the heat down to maybe about 30% because you don't want it bubbling up like crazy. And then, well, I'll show you what happens after that. Let me go ahead and get this part done. Let's get the meat done, and I'll show you what happens as soon as you dump the tomatoes and the sauce in there. So I'll be right back. Probably with another beer.
A few moments later.
Okay, so this is the part where things start to speed up. As you can see, I've browned the meat slightly. The meatballs are still slightly pink, but that's okay because it's going to cook as it simmers. The other secret of the sauce is let it simmer for a while. Let everything sort of coagulate and get to know each other. Think of it as a Carolina wine mixer. Anyway, now we're going to dump in our sauce. If you have the one bottle, just dump the one, but I've got two, so dump all the sauce in there. All the sauce. All the sauce. Okay. And then I'm going to use about half of this one too, because I need a lot. Okay. And then dump your tomatoes in there too. With the liquid, you need the liquid. There's no draining and straining. This is a very simple dish. And now this is where things start to get bubbly and kind of wet. So what I usually like to do here is drop the temperature down to about 30% because this pot's getting really full. So the trick here is I'm going to stir this in and get everybody happy and sort of blended. This is really hard to do with one hand, by the way. Maybe I'll just walk you through this part. I'm gonna stir this until everything is good and blended, right? And if you notice, I never really use any solid measurements. This is sort of something you have to eyeball and smell test to really know, hey, we're getting close, right? So right now, this is probably looking a bit, I don't know, meaty. I guess if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you're probably vomiting violently right now. But see, basically we're gonna get everybody in here. Come on, get happy. Make sure everything is kind of pushed around and all incorporated and settled in, right? Okay. So the next thing we do after this is grab our Italian seasoning. And what I like to do is I like shaking it on. I like shaking a whole layer over the top. In this case, what I'll probably do is I'll just open the bottle, right? And then I'll just grab big pinches of it and sprinkle it over the top like this. Sorry about the camera angles, I'm doing this one-handed. Okay, so I'll just grab a pinch, go over the top like so. Like so. It's almost like I'm making a crust, right? It's not the prettiest, but it's function and flavor over form. So just a little bit of this, so I get a nice even layer of seasoning over the top. All right, so that's the first one. And then once I have a layer like this, I'll stir it in, like so. So all the stuff gets into the sauce. So none of the dry seasoning is over the top, it's all inside. Now I'm gonna do that one more time across the top and then stir it in. And then I take the Parmesan cheese and I sprinkle a layer over the top of that, stir that in, and slam the lid shut and let it simmer on about 20% and just leave it for about 30 minutes. So let me do that and I'll meet you back.
20 minutes later.
Okay, so here we are during the simmer. I added a second layer of Parmesan over the top and mixed it in. This is kind of what it'll look like. I got it on 20%, and it's just gonna sit here and bubble away. In the meantime, what I've done is I salted the water on my Himalayan sea salt shaker. I'd crank it 32 times and then blend it in. So that's gonna start to boil. I use Barilla number 7, which is the thick pasta. It's gonna take about 12 to 15 minutes to cook at a full boil. What I usually do is I let the water get to a rolling boil, drop the pasta in, and then turn down the heat to about 70 to 80% just to watch the bubbles. And then we just wait it out. So once that's finished, then we'll get to plating. If you did this right, by my sort of backhanded recipe, you should be on your 3rd beer by now, and that should carry you until this is finished. So let me get that started. So also, one other thing, I made this where it serves 6 essentially. So what I'm going to do is, this is a 16-ounce box of pasta, which doesn't sound like much, but it actually does go a long way. I'm going to take about 9, maybe 10 ounces of it, so about 2/3 of the box, and that's what's going in there for 3 people. That's going to be 3 pretty manly sized bowls for 3 people. So, and my mom only weighs about 100 pounds, so she's going to be pissed. Anyway, let me let that continue simmering with the lid on and get the pasta going, and I will meet you at plating. Still upright. Christmas sales are awesome, by the way.
15 minutes later.
Finished. Plating. I'm never very good at plating. Anyway, this is my Carnivore Special. I sprinkle a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese on top. I still have to stir it up. I have a little bit left over because I made everyone's bowls rather heavy tonight because nobody ate lunch today. Anyway, this is Pwnery's Tinkering in the Kitchen Carnivore Special Spaghetti Recipe. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. But if you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlists and see if my other interests may be of interest to you. Maybe hit the like button too. Maybe subscribe too. Anyway, I'm gonna eat because I'm starving. And if you like this, make it. See if you like it. Anyway, I only make a couple of things, so these will be few and far between. But until then, we'll see you on the next one.